Crabby peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you a layout I created just because. It was nice to be able to just use my stash and just create because I felt like it. This is a picture of my husband and children at the Tufta, I guess they're called columns, in California. We were on our way out of Yosemite and heading to Nevada to make our way back home, and I wanted to stop at Mono Lake and see this tufta. And the picture was much more stunning in black and white, so I printed it in black and white. My original intention had been to scrap this 8.5 by 11 with the picture going all the way across, but it went a different direction than that, and I can't really say why. I think when I put the picture up and I had cut out these letters, which was my other plan for this layout, the plan changed a little bit. So I am going to fast forward through this fairly quickly, because what I do is I had this digital die cut of adventure, and I knew I wanted to cut the letters like that, but I wanted each of the letters to be out of a different pattern paper. And these papers are from One Canoe 2, and it's the 6x6 paper pad. So I chose everything with the reddy pink and the tan brown hues to it, and then I supplemented that with cork. I used one of the pieces twice, and I just cut each of the letters out with my scissors. And you can see that I used vellum. I traced it on vellum so that I had an idea of what it was going to look like when I reconstructed it so that the letters ran straight across. I tried to alternate red and a tan when I chose the pattern papers, as well as tried to alternate a dark and a light. And my original intention had been to reconstruct the word adventure just as it was across the page. But again, this layout took a completely different direction than what I had originally intended. So it was a little bit time consuming to trace each of the letters and then cut it again. I probably could have stuck everything down on my cutting mat and done it on my silhouette, but part of it was I wanted the freehand of having free cut these, and I wasn't really worried about the precision of how I cut them as I was cutting them by hand. So each of these letters is a different pattern paper, again from the One Canoe 2 collection, and I end up mounting these on a piece of 12 by 12 white cardstock that I had done some mixed media on before. I actually haven't shown the layout that I created in the process of doing this, but I used some shimmers, vibes, and I think there were 2 different vibes, and I was creating a background using a packaging technique. But you will see when I get to putting these letters and the picture on this background that you can see where I've rubbed with my nail into the back of the packaging, and it left a mark on the red puddle per se of color, and so it didn't work for me, but I did save it thinking that I might be able to use it for something else, and that is what I ended up using it for here. So I don't have a video of how that came back together, but literally I just used the packaging. I sprayed mist on the packaging, rubbed the packaging over the pattern paper, and then threw down some dots. So that's the paper that you see behind the picture there, and you can see where that red has been it's almost like pencil lines running through the color of puddle there. And I apologize that some of this ends up being off screen, but there's not a whole lot that is off screen. It's very little of it actually. And a good chunk of this video is going to be me exploring how I'm going to lay out these letters and how the picture is going to run. So you see here how I reconstruct it to look as the digital cut file did, and I use the picture in its full frame. I like the way that that tan paper, craft paper, and it's actually a woodstock textured paper. I like the way that it complements the colors that I've decided to use in the layout, but I also like it straight on the color cardstock. So I struggle with that for a little bit, and I think the placement of the letters is going to dictate what I'm going to do with that picture. I love that selvage strip there, and I do decide that because I want more color and there isn't a lot of red to choose from in the collection that I haven't already used in the pattern papers, that I do want that little splash there. So I decide to back the picture, and I just have a thin border around the picture because I think it really makes the picture stand out, and the background is just a background and not a player in the layout. And so I've run the letters straight across, and now I decide that I might lay them going down the page. Now, what I haven't mentioned so far is that the idea for these letters came from something on Pinterest. It was a graphic design pin that popped up in my feed, and I believe the saying was new beginnings, and just as I have pulled apart the word here and there are some floral elements, it was also that's how it was laid out in Pinterest. So I used that idea of the split words with the florals, and that was my inspiration to behind these letters here. So I have now flipped the page upside down, and the heavy pink or red on the mixed media is now below the picture, and I run it straight across. But it still doesn't work for me. I can't. It's very traditional, I guess is what I wanted to say. And in the design of this process, I wanted to do something a little bit different. And so I'm going to take this in a different direction, and cutting out this extra tag is what spurs me to take this in a little bit of a different direction. I want to use this tag. And the way that I could get both the craft tag there and the plaid tag on the layout is by shifting everything around. I do like them at the bottom, but I feel like it creates that triangular effect. And so I'm trying once again to make these letters fit. And so I thought that I would move them across the page. So I have adv and ent and and that didn't work for me. So I shift everything to the right, and this is where I get the idea that I think I'm going to put the tags on above the picture there, and I like that, but that requires me to have to shift the picture over to the left, and the picture is now going to be off the edge of the paper. And I struggled with that at first, but I decided it was the only way that I was going to get the letters in those chunks and clusters that I wanted. And it was a great place for the tag, so I was just going to have to suck it up and cut the picture, which in the end, ultimately, I'm really pleased with, and I really like the way that this turned out. So that tag there, the craft tag, is it contains some hidden journaling. I do journal on the actual layout, but there's a little bit more detail to the story on that tag there. And I just cut the top of the plaid tag off, and that is actually adhered down to the background. I use some jute string from, I believe it's May Arts ribbon. I got this a long time ago from another design team that I was on. So that brown matches very nicely with the browns in the pattern papers from One Canoe 2, and I just love the flow of the jute along with all of the other little elements that I've tucked into the letters. So I run each of these letters through my Xyron sticker maker, and that allows me to have the letters adhere down nicely, but it also holds down those die cut leaves that I have cut out using my silhouette. And It is hard to see a few of the letters, the A, the V, and the U, and I think I may go back in and either try and pull them up and swipe them with a little bit of brown, either that or I might just take a very, very fine brown marker and outline the outer edge of those letters, because it is a little bit hard to see, but I also like it the way that it is. So I haven't quite decided how I'm going to ultimately leave that. So each of these letters I try and reconstruct in the bits and pieces of the letter chunks from the original Word in the digital cut file. I've moved that U so it's too close to the picture there, so I have to lift it up, which isn't a problem because I'm going to tuck elements in underneath it and cover up where it did pull up a little bit of the paper there, and tuck in some more of these digital cut files that I had cut. And those are from the Silhouette store. And that's a piece of cork that I use to supplement just for another brown. I love the texture that it added, and by using that cork, it prompted me to pull out some of my Spiegel Mom Scraps cork pieces, as well as some sequins, just to add a little more embellishment to the page. So here I am being brave, using my X-Acto knife to cut off the edge of the picture, and I like it. It doesn't look like the picture runs off the page, even though it does. There's sort of a final border to that. So here's my tub of Spiegel Mom Scraps goodies, and I pull out these butterflies. And unfortunately, these cork pieces Jody is no longer producing, but it's easy to make them on your own. If you go to Michael's and or Joann's, you can buy die cuts with a view cork that is sticky backed, like that E that I used, and I easily ran my that cork, because it's fairly thin, through punches, and was my Martha Stewart butterfly punches, and was able to get similar butterflies that way. And then I used a variety of sequences from Spiegel Mom Scraps just to pull out the pink, the brown, and I believe it was a white, a shimmery white color. I frequently make my own collections from the mixes and use those because I thought that they complemented the splatter mists that I had through the page. I'm now pulling out these stickers from One Canoe 2 from that collection, captured, and using them to further embellish the letters, somewhat similar to how the letters had been embellished on the Pinterest inspiration that I had for those letters. And then also on that right hand side below the picture, as well as above the picture. I tried to create a line, sort of a cascading effect between the letters, so it starts at the top with that butterfly, moves down to the picture, and then down to that bottom butterfly there. And then I found some of the ephemera from the ephemera pack, and I just ended up using little pieces, the hearts and the stars, that again further supplemented the embellishments around the letters. And then there was that delicate little rosebud that I thought was a nice touch as well to those letters. And I do journal on the layout directly, and I journal between the Fresh Air sticker and the road trip sticker there, and it just says, leaving Yosemite, we detoured to the Tufta columns at Mono Lake. The golden glow over the rock formations, stunning. And then there's a little bit more detail on the tags there. So in a minute, I am going to call this good. I am very pleased with the way that this turned out, and I hope you enjoyed this process video. Thanks for stopping in and spending some time with me today. Take care.